The following podcast is part of the MindBodySpirit.fm podcast network.
Late night bites with friends? Already hard to beat. That first too hot bite of fries you couldn't wait for, followed by ice cold Pepsi. Now that hits different. Suddenly, the energy kicks back in, the night goes longer, and the laughs don't stop. Because Pepsi brings out more flavor, more fun, and more of the moment. Food deserves Pepsi. Grab a Pepsi Zero Sugar today.
Hey, it's Ryan Reynolds here from Mint Mobile. Now, I was looking for fun ways to tell you that Mint's offer of unlimited premium wireless for $15 a month is back. So I thought it would be fun if we made $15 bills. But it turns out that's very illegal. So there goes my big idea for the commercial. Give it a try at mintmobile.com/switch.
Upfront payment of $45 for 3 months, $90 for 6 months, or $180 for 12-month plan required. $15 per month equivalent. Taxes and fees extra. Initial plan term only. Greater than 50 gigabytes may slow when network is busy. See terms.
Hi, I'm Lindsay, host of the Live Like Eden podcast. What do you do when your whole life flips upside down? Are you questioning everything, lost in chaos, or yearning for life's deeper meaning? I've been there, deep in the thick of it, unraveling my own awakening mess for over 20 years. Now I'm here to help you through yours. I share no-nonsense weekly wake-ups, cutting through the ego's illusions to wake you up to your own spiritual wisdom. No mountaintop bliss needed here, just practical tools, insights, and real-life experience to save you time. Plus, a much-needed laugh when we're all losing it. Let's dive into this fresh new episode. Today, I am joined by Letao Wang. He is a professional astrologist, spiritual counselor, tarot specialist, and an award-winning author. His work has been featured in the New York Post, Bustle, BBC, Vice, Axios, and more. He has a brand new card deck called Legends, Heroes, and Villains Oracle. Today, he sits down with me to discuss how history's greatest heroes and legends offer perspectives into our own choices. I hope you enjoy our conversation today. You can find Letao at thehealingkingdom.com, and I will be sure to link everything in the show notes for you. Enjoy the show, and I'll be back with you next week. Welcome back, everybody, to the Live Like Eden podcast. I'm your host, Lindsay, and I am thrilled to be joined by Letao Wang, professional astrologer, spiritual counselor, and tarot specialist. Letao, thank you so much for joining me today.
Hello, Lindsay, and thank you so much for having me. Great to be here.
Well, I'm always so excited to dive into topics like these. And I see that you're also the creator of several card decks, and your most recent one, Legends, Heroes, and Villains, Oracle cards. We're going to dive into that today. But before we get into everything you do and all of your wisdom you're here to share with us and the listeners, I want to hear about you. I want to hear about your story of, your spiritual evolution and how you sort of learned about astrology, tarot, and becoming a spiritual counselor. Like, what called you to do that? So maybe you can just share that with us.
Absolutely. I grew up actually in a very, not spiritual environment, actually. My families are not spiritual people whatsoever. They're also not religious. And so, both my parents are very, very, for them, it's always about work, earning money, making sure that everyone is being fed, that kind of parents. And so I never really, I was never really exposed to any spiritual beliefs or practice when I was a child. And so the first time that I encountered something in the mystical world was, I think when I was maybe 20 or 21, in a shop, because at that time I was studying, doing my undergraduate degree in Japan, in Tokyo. And I encountered the very first tarot deck in the local shop. But of course, I had no idea what that was. And truth be told, I was not really attracted to that anyway. I look at that, I was like, I have no idea what this is about. And, I've heard the word tarot, but I don't know what you use, how you use it, right? Why you need to use it. But somehow that first tarot deck, which is the standard, Rider-Waite tarot, somehow it left an impression in my mind, even though I was not particularly interested in learning or getting to know tarot. And then about 2, 3 years later, I moved to Sydney, Australia, to do my master program. And that's when everything changed because I was going through a very, very confusing period of time in my life. I was, it was about 6 months or 3 months before my graduation from grad school. But what I always visioned that I would be doing professionally suddenly collapsed inside me. And so all those years of learning and study and training would mean that I don't know what I wanted to do.
Can I ask you real quick what you were studying? What were you?
So my master program was in conference interpreting. So I don't know if you have seen a very old movie called The Interpreter.
I haven't seen it, but I know what you're talking about. Yeah.
Yeah, by Nicole Kidman, right? So basically, conference interpreting is so you are trained to be a simultaneous interpreter. You would go to a conference or business meetings, and well, the ideal situation is you will be put in the booth and you have a microphone like this, and you are listening to whoever that is talking, and you are interpreting simultaneously into a different language, and so that the audience can understand. Yeah.
Right.
So that was my and I wanted to be an interpreter for many, many years, and that's why I put all my effort into that. But right before my graduation, suddenly, I realized that I don't want to do that.
After all those years, right? Yeah.
Yeah. Well, it was a trigger actually because I really wanted to work for United Nations, and but only right before the graduation, I learned that if you want to be hired as a full-time interpreter by the UN, you need to be able to do simultaneous interpreting for 3 out of the 6 official languages of the UN, which is English, French, Spanish, Russian, Chinese, and also Arabic.
Wow.
I did speak 3 languages, but one of them is not the official languages. So basically, they're saying, well, if you can only do 2, you can only work for us part-time. But the thing is, you are not a European citizen, so you can't work in Geneva if we only hire you part-time because we don't do your visa, right? So as a Chinese national, what are you gonna do, right?
Yeah.
Are you gonna learn Arabic from scratch? No way, right?
That sounds hard.
Yeah. So and then I suddenly realized that what I really wanted to do was impossible. And there was not really a very clear path for me. And I didn't really want to, because at that time I was living in Sydney, right? I was in Australia. And the interpreting jobs in Australia was very much different from what I wanted to do because I wanted to work for international organizations. But most interpreting jobs in Sydney was more like a community work. If you know what I mean.
Yeah.
So for example, you would accompany a foreign immigrant, right, to the city hall or to a local hospital because they don't speak the foreign language.
Got it.
And then you interpret for them, and the government as a service for the community, the government will pay you a minimum fee, right? And that's just completely different from what I really visioned. There's nothing wrong with that. It's just not what I really wanted to do. And I was so confused around that time that one day I was just ambling down the street with a friend. We were just talking about, graduation and things. And we saw this really cool shop, with a little bit like crystals and like a skull, displayed, there. And both of us were like, well, what is this, right? And I was like, well, you go in first. And she was like, no, you go in first, right? And so we were kind of like pushing each other, and somehow we were inside the shop. And there was a guy, older guy. I think at that time, maybe he was in his late 40s. He was sitting there, and he said, do you want a reading? I didn't even know what a reading was. And I said, well, what is a reading?
Yeah.
And
what are you reading?
Yeah. And I was like, so he explained it. I said, I do have a question. I said, I do have something that I'm baffled by, but I just want to let you know, I'm a student. I don't have a lot of money, right? So I don't know how much you charge. And he was very nice. He said, well, if you want just a short reading, just $25, right? And we can do a short reading for you. I was like, okay, that's fine. So that was my first experience with a proper reader actually in a shop. And without disclosing much of what my background, everything, he was quite accurate in looking at my situation at that time. Even though there were certain things he said, I was like, yeah, I'm not sure about that. But what was fascinating was that about 3 months after that, around actually my graduation time, whatever he said that didn't make sense to me actually came true.
Can I ask a question, Letao? Was
Yeah.
he astrology reader or just psychic reading? What kind of reading was he giving you?
So he was a psychic.
Just totally reading your energy.
Yeah, he was a psychic. Yeah, and of course he did use some cards.
Yeah.
Yeah, but the experience I had was more sort of like he was just reading me because he didn't pull a lot of cards. It was maybe 3 or 5 or 6 cards. That's it, right? So it's not like a whole table of spreading everything out, that kind of energy. So I got really intrigued. After that, I was thinking, okay, there's something about what he does that is, it's something that I cannot baffle right at that time. So I went back to him and I gave him my feedback and I said, can I do another reading? And we did another reading, and same, a lot of things made sense, some didn't. But same, after 3 or 4 months, all the things that didn't make sense to me at that time came true again. And so slowly I kind of enjoyed just talking to him, right? It's not just about the prediction, but I really enjoyed being read by him and to talk to him about, a life. And, you can imagine for a very confused, a 20-something-year-old young guy who did not know what he wanted to do in the future, living in a foreign country, it was I don't know, it was very therapeutic to me.
I bet. Yeah.
Yeah. And slowly one day he said to me, I think you are very talented and you are very intuitive. Yeah, I think you should learn this.
Mm.
And that just, and the rest is history,
So was he like a mentor to you then? How did you
Yeah.
learn from him?
I learned from him a lot, actually. I mean, he was never really, like, oh, you're my student, things like that. But he gave me a lot of wisdom, let's put it this way. And mainly I studied by myself, actually, but through the resources that he shared with me. But one of the most important things that I learned from him was really the foundation of astrology and how to understand astrology through mythology.
That's so interesting. It actually leads me to this question because there's a lot of different types of astrology, right? You got Vedic astrology, Western, Chinese. Can you explain, through your own learning, what makes these different? And how do you know, like, are they all accurate? Like, I know that some of them place you in different houses, things like that. For those people listening, the birth chart or natal chart. I'm curious, what's the difference? And are any of them more trustworthy than others?
Vedic astrology is from India. And actually all types of astrology came from the ancient Babylonian and the Sumerian period of time, actually. But then they were, developed, differently by different culture because, it went to different countries, right? And the Greeks, they made their own version and then they went to the Romans. And of course, for Indians, right, when astrology came to India, they developed their own version, which is called Vedic. And I would say Vedic and also the so-called contemporary or modern Western astrology, they have the similar roots, roughly from the the Sumerian period of time in the area. But Chinese astrology is very different. And the things that we're looking at in Chinese astrology is quite interesting because when you look at it, Western astrology or Vedic astrology, basically they're talking about the planet in the sky. Okay. And we're looking at, the position of the sun, the moon, Mercury, Venus, right? Blah, blah, blah. And then, of course, there are different types of house systems. And there's nothing right or wrong about the different house systems, but it's more sort of like a personal experience for me. For natal astrology, I'd like to use Placidus. But for horary astrology, I like to use the equal house system. So and that's just what I find most accurate in my personal practice. On the other side, Chinese astrology is actually not really the observation of the sky, even though a lot of the things that we're doing is originally came from the observation of the sky. Chinese astrology, when you're studying it, you realize that it's more to deal with you and the nature around you. So it's a little bit like a smaller cosmos.
Oh, I like that. Yeah.
Yeah, we're not really talking about what's beyond the earth. We're talking about the earth itself. The environment that you're living in now is a cosmos.
That makes sense.
And that's why we have got the five sacred elements in Chinese astrology, the wood, the water, the fire, the metal, and what else? The earth, right? And those are ways subcategorize them into further, right? Into 10 different types. For example, for the water, we have the yin water and the yang water, and the symbolism would also be different, right? For example, yang water is ocean, big rivers, right? But yin water is drizzling rain.
Mm. Hmm.
For the yang fire, it's the sun. For the yin fire, it's fireflies, it's candles, it's
Interesting.
stars.
Yeah.
And for the let's say what else? Let's say metal, right? The yang metal, it's let's say cars, right? Or big vehicle, right? Metal vehicles or swords, weapons. Those are yang metal. Yin metal would be jewelry, earrings, necklaces, right? Pendant,
Smaller.
bracelets,
Hmm.
yes, smaller metal, these kind of things. And so when you're doing Chinese astrology, you're basically based on that person's date of birth, month, year, time, and we're looking at the relationship between them and the other 10 different elements around them. What's the relationship between them and how that reflects our life. So it's quite different.
It's totally different. I did not know much about Chinese astrology, so thank you for sharing that. And does that tie in also to Chinese medicine? Because you mentioned, wood, fire, all these elements that's
Yep.
also in Chinese medicine and acupuncture.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah.
So it's all working together.
Yeah, like for example, when you're looking at someone's chart, right? When someone's, let's say their chart is filled with wood energy
Hmm.
and their own symbolism, let's say this person is also symbolized by wood, and all the, let's say among 9 positions filled with wood, and they have 1 position filled with earth. This is a very clear indication of someone who might have medical issues with their gallbladder, with their liver, yeah, and also with their skin, because the wood element rules our gallbladder and liver function. And earth rules our digestive system, our stomach, our intestines, as well as our skin. And the reason is because wood, they conquer earth. The reason is because, for example, if you have soil here, and you grow a tree, the tree's root will crack into the soil so deeply that they can destroy the soil, right? Because
Yeah.
the roots is very strong. And so wood element naturally is a conqueror of soil. So you can imagine when someone's chart is filled with so much wood, you're planting so many trees in a very small piece of land, then the earth cannot support the tree. And naturally the earth is, we call that the wounded, right? And because the earth element is related to our skin, so usually when I look at that kind of chart, I'll tell the client, I'll say, do you ever have skin problems? Or is skin, like for example, acne, right? Or rashes or things like that. It's definitely related to medical.
That's so interesting. So how does the Chinese astrology, when you pull up a chart, like when you pull up a Vedic or Western chart, if you lay those 2 charts versus a Chinese, is it totally different?
It's very complementary to each other. And that's why when I'm doing a reading with clients, this is very interesting because I don't know, what kind of reader that you have encountered in the past. Usually on their website they will say, oh, you can choose to do, I don't know, you can do 30-minute tarot reading with me, or you can do astrology reading with me, or you can do palm reading with me, right? And they're all different categories. I don't do that personally. For me, my session is called spiritual counseling, and I would use whatever method that would be most suitable for that client or for that specific question they ask. It could be maybe to answer a question. I'm thinking, well, you know what? I think Western astrology would be the best way to answer this question. And I will pull out the Western chart and we'll talk about that. And maybe the next thing the client wants to ask, I'm thinking, well, you know what? Actually, Chinese astrology will help the most. And I'll pull out the Chinese chart. And sometimes those charts will not be very helpful. Neither of the chart will be helpful. Then I will say, okay, you know what? This is a very immediate question, very, very specific, very, very concrete. Let's pull cards. Because cards will give us something that is more concrete with this kind of question. So for me, it's not really about what the client is choosing to, okay, can I get this kind of reading, that reading? But let's be real and let's be practical. What is your real concern? What is the thing that you are seeking now? And as the expert, I will help you to use the right method to answer your question. So I will choose whatever way that is most suitable for the clients.
Let's talk about this. So you're with your mentor, you start studying all this on your own. Did you go take classes, or was this all personal study? And then at what point did you start, working with people?
I would say in my journey, I would say maybe 50% is my self-study.
Mm-hmm.
And I would say, I'm quite natural with the books that I read and the things that I'm learning. But along the way, I had several teachers who was kind enough to play the mentor role for me. I would say maybe there were only two teachers that I really studied systematically. Let's say every week, we have classes, and even there was homework, things like that. But I would say most amazing, there were two teachers that influenced my spiritual and growth the most, and both of them were more like sporadic. So it's more like we became friends, if you know what I mean.
Yeah.
And we just get together all the time and we talk about the things. And in Chinese, we have a proverb. We say, when you are drawing a dragon, your mentor is the one who just points at where the eye is. It's a little bit like you have to be the one drawing the dragon, but your mentor will just be the one watching you drawing and will just be like, that's where the eye is. And then it gives you the most important information. Because when you draw something, the eyes are the most important, right?
Interesting.
Yeah.
Why is the dragon, can you answer this question? Why is the dragon so, prominent and symbolically important in the Chinese, everything, the Chinese New Year? I'm just curious. I'm the year of the dragon. So I was just curious.
Oh, I see.
They make it a big deal. Can you explain what is the symbolism of the dragon from that point of view?
Yeah, well, because in the ancient days, right, all our past emperors believed that they were the reincarnation of the dragon.
Okay.
And that's why, and that's why on the robe, right, well, whatever attire that the emperor would wear, you always see a dragon on their chest because they believe that they were the reincarnation of dragon. So dragon is very royal, it's very regal. It symbolizes power and it symbolizes courage, right, and control and everything beautiful that we want. And we usually say the emperor is a dragon and the first wife, or let's say the empress, right? Of course, emperor has a lot of wives, but the first wife would be the phoenix. Yeah.
I've always wondered why. So they think it's the reincarnated version, is what you're saying.
Yeah. Yeah. So they believe the dragon is the so-called the god or the sacred being, there. And because we can't really communicate directly with the higher being, and so we're communicating through the emperor.
Yeah.
And that's why emperor cannot be elected. Emperor can only be like by the sky. You are the emperor. That's it, right? Nobody elects you. You are the emperor, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So can I ask you, how did your own personal study of all of these, astrology, the tarot, you're diving in, how did this affect you in your own personal transformation, especially as a young person? You say you're struggling. Was there any specific moment where a major shift occurred within you to say, wow, this is really it. This is what I'm doing. Tell us about that.
Yeah. So around the age of 28, 29, and that's a very important age in astrology. We call that the Saturn return. And that's a period of time when I, basically made the very difficult decision to quit my corporate job. And because I was a banker before in my 20s, and to quit my job and to pursue my spiritual path, even though it was pretty much against by my families.
So what was that like for you to overcome your, the family's expectation of you? Do they accept you for what you do now?
To be honest, at that time, I just kept it very, very low. Like I didn't really say anything. I quit my job, but I didn't tell them.
Yeah. Might be a good choice.
Yeah. Because I realized that there's no point for me to have this conversation with them, because what I will get is no anyway. And by telling them, because I know that I would choose what I choose anyway. because
Right.
I left home when I was 17. Yeah, I
Mm.
was very independent, and I never really lived with my families, and so I'm gonna do what I'm gonna do anyway. But I didn't really want to cause any upset feelings in them,
Mm-hmm.
since I'm gonna do what I want to do anyway. So I'd rather not tell you, so that you can just live a happy life, believing that I'm living the
Right.
life that you want me to live. But I would just do whatever I need to do, right? And I was thinking one day I will tell you guys, but I will have to really show you some. Well, I have to prove myself to you, right? So, for
Mm-hmm.
example, I have to show you a certain achievement I've made, so that you can be convinced. You can say, okay, that's fine, right? Let's say you can make a living, you can take good care of yourself. You are not bringing shame to the family. Fine, we will leave you alone. So it took me about 4 or 5 years to
Yeah.
really just to level with them. Yeah,
Mm-hmm. I love
even
that.
though they still didn't like it, to be honest, but they didn't complain. They just said, okay, we still think you should go back to the bank,
Right.
but
And you're like, well, I'm not going to do that.
no. No, no,
Well, I
no.
love that story because you're really staying true to yourself. And
Yeah.
I also
Mm.
love that you say I don't have to disrupt their belief in what they think I
Yeah.
should be doing. I think that's honorable. And
Yeah,
clearly
yeah.
you're reading the situation. It's like, I don't need to bring unnecessary stress here, you know?
Well, because this is usually what I say to my clients as well. Like, especially when someone says, "Oh, why can't they understand me, right? Why can't they accept this?" Well, because they are who they are based on their earlier 30 days education, right? Maybe that's how they were raised, right? So it's also unfair for us to say, "Why can't you be like what I want you to be?" Well, because they are not you, and
Yeah,
so I would never
exactly.
expect my parents to completely be, aligned with my beliefs and what I wanted to do. But the only request I for me is that you let me do what I do,
Yeah. Have
right?
the
And
freedom. Hmm.
yeah, and I will be responsible for my own decisions. I will not come back to you and say, "Oh, why didn't you stop me? Why didn't you, stop me from doing this?" No, no, it's my responsibility. But let me do what I need to do, and it's vice versa. I mean, I will never, tell my parents what to do, how to live their lives.
Yeah.
Even though sometimes my father's decision is a little bit like, oh, you know, yeah, but who am I, right? I mean, he's lived 70 something years in this world. He knows more than what I know in some way. So
Sure.
I will let you make your own decision. I'm not gonna tell you what to do.
Yeah. Based on his own personal experience and whatever he's gone through in his life. Yeah.
100%. Yeah.
Yeah. So, do you have kids? Are you a father
Yeah.
at all?
No, no.
Thinking of if you ever have children, would that change how you raise your own kids, given where you've
Ooh,
given where you've come and seen in the family? Just curious.
I actually never really want to be a parent, to be honest,
Good
because I
answer.
really, yeah, because I guess I'm more interested in I would rather adopt a kid, to be honest, because I feel like there are so many kids without parents
There
out
are.
there.
Hmm.
Yeah, and they came to this world without any support. Why would I want to bring more children to this world? Even though I 100% understand that, when people say they want their own children, but I was not born with that, that kind of, how do I say that? That mother nature
Right. That yearning to have your own.
yearning to have a child, right? But I do want to, if I one day, if I ever make that decision, I want to adopt a child, and I want to give those children, the happiness and the fulfillment that their original family were not able to provide.
Oh, I love that. I like that a
Mm.
lot. So let's dive into like mythology, history here just for a second before we get into your cards a little bit. So, history and humanity seems to constantly be repeating ourselves over and over and over, both, from an astrological and psychological perspective. Like,
Mm.
what do you think is the reason for that and these continuous cycles that we never seem to break? What is your take on that? And how can we break them, Letao?
Ooh, am I allowed to say this
You
like
can say
publicly?
whatever.
Yeah. Well, because I believe that because we never learn our lesson.
Yeah,
That's why.
yeah.
I actually said this to one of my mentors the other because I had a podcast with him. Yeah. I said human beings have been involved in uh, wars since the very first day thousands of years, right? We killed, we committed atrocity through different period of time of human history, but we're still doing that now. Do we know that was wrong? Of course we know. But why are we still doing that? Well, I hate to say this because we're all selfish. It's about that. It's about, I want this piece of land.
Oh, yeah.
And this is my personal desire. I don't care if I cause atrocity or if I have to sacrifice everybody else's happiness who is living on that land. This is mine. And so I will do that. My ancestors did that. I know that was probably not okay, but I don't care because now I want it.
Right.
And so I think at the end of the day, it's about selfishness. It's about, we all have our own agenda. And when it comes to the choice between what I want and what is better for the bigger good, a lot of our leaders choose their personal desire.
They do.
And because they have the power to move hundreds of thousands of people by just giving an order, and that's why it causes a lot of problems in modern days. So I think that's the reason. It's because we don't learn our lessons, even though logically we know we should.
Oh, absolutely.
But we choose not to.
The perfect lunch combo. That first bite of your favorite sub, followed by ice-cold Pepsi. Add a couple of friends, and now that's next level. Suddenly, the laughs get louder, the stories keep flowing, and the food tastes better. Because Pepsi brings out more flavor, more fun, and more of the moment. Food deserves Pepsi. Grab a Pepsi Zero Sugar today.
Hi, Ryan Reynolds here for Mint Mobile. Are you looking for a beach read this summer? May I suggest your big wireless bill? It's got suspense, mystery, a slightly flat, emotional arc, and a shocking twist where you realize you've been overpaying the entire time. Fortunately, though, Mint's story is better. Every plan, $15 a month. Even unlimited. That's it. Happy ending. Zero tears. Give it a try at mintmobile.com/switch.
Upfront payment of $45 for 3 months, $90 for 6 months, or $180 for 12-month plan required. $15 per month equivalent. Taxes and fees extra. Initial plan term only. Greater than 50 gigabytes may slow when network is busy. See terms.
Best thing that's ever happened to you financially. Go.
Easy. Sold my car on Carvana. Amazing offer.
Really? I hit 200 on the scratcher.
Did the scratcher come to your house and hand you a check?
No.
How many scratchers did you hit to get that? I hit a button on Carvana.com once.
Okay, that's fair.
It's like the lottery, except you always win.
Not like the lottery at all, actually.
Exactly. Inexplicably good. Offers worth bragging about. Sell your car today on Carvana. Pickup fees may apply.
Seems to be the ego's, kill or be killed kind of mentality that is projected out onto the world stage.
When ego is inflated in that way, right? And sometimes we might even think that the ego is justified.
Oh, absolutely. It always thinks it's justified.
Because a lot of the time, even in my personal counseling sessions, I realize there are certain clients, facing this difficulty when it comes to, like my decision or what I'm doing is justified. But so why shouldn't I do it? And I give an example. And one of the typical examples people think it's justified is about revenge. It's, you did this to me first, so it's only fair for me to do it back to you, right? So now I'm doing something wrong. I know that I'm hurting you, but because you hurt me first, and that's why I'm hurting you, right? Yeah. So a lot of people would see that as justice. Like, I'm not doing anything wrong because you started it, right? But at the end of the day, that's also ego.
It is, and you're acting just like the other person. It's kind of like when I just asked the question about why don't we break the cycle. It's like, we know better, but we, like you said, we want revenge. We're justified, and it just keeps continuing. I mean,
especially starting from the beginning of this year, I noticed that a lot of the readings I do, because when I use one of my oracle cards, this one, Oracle of the Mythic Heroes, one card kept jumping out. Literally says revenge. Oh, by the way, this deck of cards has won an award. 2 weeks
cool.
ago.
Please share.
The cover award has won the best guidebook accompanying a card deck.
Oh, that's great. Congratulations.
Thank you so much. Yeah.
And it's which one? The Mythic Heroes? Is that what it says?
Correct. An Oracle of the Mythic Heroes. Yeah. I'll show you that card that I just talked about. It's literally, it says it's a revenge, and it's a story that I wrote about Medea from Jason and the Argonauts. It's a very complex situation because Medea she fell in love with Jason, this Greek hero. And Jason, because Medea is a witch, so she has magical power, right? And so Jason said, I need your power to help me kill the dragon, right? So that I can obtain the golden fleece. And Medea said, well, of course I'll help you, but if you want to marry me, you want to be with me, and we can be a great team, right? Then I'll help you whatever you want. And Jason said, yeah, sure, I'll marry you, no problem. Help me. And so eventually they killed the dragon. They obtained the golden fleece, and Jason became the king, right? But after all that, Jason said, you know what? I'm not gonna marry you because because I'm gonna marry a princess from the neighboring country. I want political power. But thank you for everything you did for me. You are a great lady. Thank you so much. Oh, actually, during the 2 years they were together, Medea gave birth to 2 children for him.
Oh, wow. So Medea's, she's not going to like this situation too much, was she?
And so you can see on the card, there's a child dead, right, next to her feet, and she's holding another child in her hand. So Medea said, okay, if you do that, if you betray me like this, I will kill our children right in front of your face.
Oh,
your choice. What are you going to do? And Jason said, I don't believe you. You're not going to kill our children. I'm going to leave. And Medea actually killed her children in front of Jason. And this is the picture of her driving away, right, from Jason's palace. And so when I was writing that story and the chapter for this card, and I said, well, I'm not saying who's right, who's wrong. Of course, Jason was being an a-hole, because he promised something to Medea, and he didn't deliver it, and which is, he lied basically, right, to Medea. But does that justify Medea's action to kill her own children, right, as a revenge, right? Mm-hmm. So I said, sometimes, when you are ready to embark on this journey of revenge, you better dig 2 graves, because one is for them, one is for you as well.
Exactly.
Nobody will be happy at the end. And so from the beginning of this year, I realized a lot of clients coming to session, they tend to pull this card because they can't resolve this need to find justice because someone did something to them first, right? And they can't let that go.
Yeah. Let's talk about this. How do you counsel them to let it go? Because do the ends justify the means? I mean, do you really want to kill your children?
Well, one of the things that I realized that, about revenge is I said, well, actually your ability to let go of this is the biggest revenge. Because when you are holding on to this resentment, they are having a great time.
Oh, they love it. Yeah.
When you are still bothered by this, sitting at home thinking, why did you do this to me? Why, I can't forgive you, all this kind of, unresolved anger. The person that you're angry with is having a drink with his or her best friends, having a party now. I said, you walking away from this energy is the biggest revenge to them because it's basically sending a message to them that you means nothing to me.
Yeah. Oh, that's so true. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, like you have no power over my happiness.
Yeah. It's so funny, Letao. My daughter just told me this the other day. She's 20 years old and she's like, Mom, if a guy ever, cheats on me, I'm just going to look at him calmly and be like, I don't care. I don't need you. I'm not going to show him any emotion. I'm just going to walk away. And I was like, wow, you've got it all planned out. But it's kind of leading to what you're saying, instead of feeling this wrath of revenge, it's like, you just let it go. It's like, move on. Mm-hmm.
Because here's the thing. What they did to, let's say, to someone, right? Let's say what they did to me, for example, well, eventually they're going to do this to someone else. Because this is their pattern, because that's just what they do, right? And so eventually punishing them is not going to be my responsibility, I believe, because if that's just who they are, right? So I think that's important, because I think a lot of times when we are seeing justice, we have this need to punish them by ourselves. Like, I have to punish you so that I feel it's more fair now. No, it's not our responsibility.
Well, right. It's kind of like I have the power to punish, It's like, no, let something else happen. That'll all work itself out.
Exactly. Yeah. Let it go. Let the sky do their work, right? What we need to do is just to walk away from the so-called need for revenge or justice. Yeah.
Absolutely. So, Letao, a personal question to you in this chaotic world that I believe has always been happening. I'm not sure it's new. We've always lived in a dual world, right?
Yeah,
How do
yeah.
you stay, centered, grounded, spiritually connected? Do you use the cards yourself? Do you use astrology? Can you do it to yourself, or do you use your mentor, or do you go to somebody else? How do you stay
Oh,
personally connected?
all of those methods, whatever that can help me to go through a difficult time. I
Hmm.
think there's certain times when I feel I can help myself. I can either do meditation or I can use journaling to help myself to reflect. But there are definitely certain times that I want to talk to my mentor, and also there are also times when I feel like I want to talk just to a friend.
Hmm. Yeah.
Yeah. So it depends. Yeah, and I would recommend this to everybody. Like you don't have to find one method to help yourself. There are certain times you need certain different things in your life.
Were you always drawn to mythology? Like, is that something you had as a young person, or do you just get into it when you started looking into astrology and these things?
Well, it's more like I would say during the time when I started my astrology learning with my mentor because he taught me astrology through myth. Mythology was yeah, I didn't grow up with mythology at all. Uh, I was reading very orthodox literature when I grew up.
Sounds like it from how you explained your family. Yeah.
Yeah, but there's nothing wrong with it, right? I mean, I enjoyed reading those things like Jane Austen,
Hmm.
this kind of
The
stuff when I
classic
was in
works. Yeah.
the classic works, right? And what you have to study in school, whatever that is. And also a lot of Chinese literature, of course, because of my background. But yeah, Western mythology and the stories would definitely it was a much later stage in my life. I would say in my mid 20s.
Okay.
And mythology really helped me to understand astrology.
It's interesting how they're all tied together with the tarot. Let's get
Mm,
into your deck, your latest deck
mm,
here on the
yeah,
legends, heroes, and villains. I would love to know. We don't do video, but it's a beautiful little cover. And I am curious how what's the creative process like for you when you making this Oracle deck? Because there are so
yeah,
many Oracle cards, right? There's
yeah,
lots of them out there. I never know which ones are truthful. Like, I don't know. Like, what's the space
yeah,
like?
yeah.
So tell me how did you make all this? Like, what was your process like?
Well, first of all, if you look at the Oracle card market, but I mean, of course, tarot is a different category. We're not talking about tarot, just Oracle cards. Um, there is a huge number of decks featuring, for example, let's say fairies, angels, right, things like that, or even mermaids, right, things like that. I love them, right? They're beautiful, they're pretty, and I think that they're very friendly for, let's say, young girls. Teenage girls because they feel it's very feminine, right? It's more close to, easier for them to use, right? And they like. Um, but I wanted to create something more neutral. I wanted something that is for all different, age groups and genders and things like that. And so, because I always loved mythology, I realized that maybe using human stories would be more accessible or easy for us to relate, more relatable to us.
Yeah.
And so this deck, Legends, Heroes, and Villains Oracle, is all about actual historical figures. None of them are imaginary, fairies in the sky. They're actually people who lived in our society. Either some of them are still alive now, some of them maybe lived hundreds of years ago. But each one of them made a huge impact in our human society in different ways.
Hmm. Good or
Some of them
bad.
were
Hmm.
good or bad, yeah. Some of them maybe are artists. Some of them are, politicians. Some of them are successful businessmen. Some of them are scientists, and some of them, of course, are the villains. Right? They're again selfish decisions, um, you know, caused either trauma or difficulties in society. So when I was designing this deck of cards, I very carefully chose 36 figures based on the 12 zodiac signs.
Hmm. Okay.
And because each three of them would represent the energy of that specific zodiac sign. So, for example, I just randomly opened my guidebook. For example, for the chapter of Gemini, right? I've got 3 figures here. The first one is Malala Yousafzai, and the keyword for her is education.
Mm-hmm.
The second figure is Chiune Sugihara. He was actually a very famous diplomat during the Second World War, and his keyword is choice. And the third one is, well, this one is famous, Isaac Newton, and his keyword is curiosity. And also one of the intentions behind the creation of this deck is that I really wanted to introduce some very important historical figures from Asia to the Western audience, right? Everybody, in the U.S. knows, Martin Luther King, right? All those kind of, Western figures we all study in high school, whatever that is. But there are a lot of very interesting people from China, from Japan, from Southeast Asia, from India, that where maybe the Western audience are not familiar with. Mm-hmm. Some of those names, a lot of people would say, I've never heard of this guy. Like, for example, the name that I mentioned, Chiune Sugihara.
Yeah, I've never heard of.
Most Westerners wouldn't know who he is. But when I was studying and reading their stories, I was thinking, wow, like I really want our Western audience to know who he is. And actually, these days, if you go to Japan, and both Japan and also Lithuania, you will find their museums.
Mm.
Literally in Lithuania, there's a museum called Chiune Sugihara Museum. Yeah, because what he did was during the Second World War, the Jewish people were persecuted by the Nazis, right? And so about 4,000 Jewish refugees approached the Japanese consulate, and they wanted a visa to run away from Eastern Europe, and so that they can go to Japan, and through Japan, trended in Japan and go to somewhere else. And the Japanese government told Chiune Sugihara, because he was the vice chancellor there, and the Japanese government gave him an order that said, do not issue any visa. We don't want refugees. But so he was facing this very difficult choice. When thousands of refugees were outside the consulate, then they were facing, danger and death.
Right.
Well, his boss is saying that do not do that. He still issued about 3,000 something visas to the refugees. Wow. And let them get on the boat to go to Japan. And basically, he sacrificed his career. I mean, in actual history, even though he still had his job, later he was called back to Japan, and he was pretty much sidelined.
Really?
Yeah, and he was never really given any important position because of the choice he made to save those refugees' lives.
So he goes against authority, and then now he's remembered as, he's got the museums and.
Correct. Yeah, and that's why people in Lithuania, they still remember him. And yeah, it was a very touching story.
That is.
And so I really wanted, figures like that, I really wanted to introduce to the Western audience and read his stories. And when you pull a card, which says choice, what kind of choice are you going to make in life now? Maybe today when you're pulling this card, you are facing a difficult choice of what to do, right? You might be facing certain pressure from your environment, or maybe from your own guilt. But on the other side, what's the right thing for you to do. What are you going to choose? Things like that. Yeah.
That's really cool. So you've really developed, there's a guidebook along with it, right? So do you kind of go into the description of the historic figure and then sort of play the duality of the choice,
Absolutely.
Like you said? That's cool.
Yeah.
I like
that. So
that.
in the guidebook for each figure, the first part of the writing is to tell you the story of this person, right? Just to introduce. And then the second half of the writing is the teaching. Is okay. So what does that mean when you really pull this card out?
Well, I really like how you include the villains, because so many, like you mentioned earlier, a lot of the oracle cards are fairies and love and light, and it's very light, which serves its purpose. But
Absolutely.
I think that, the deeper that one goes in their own, spiritual connection, and you really have to look at the villain archetype of ourselves, that we all sort of have this shadow, right, underneath.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. There are about quite a few villain figures I put in there. And sometimes when we say they're villain, I also believe that in a way a villain can be a saint, but a saint can also be a villain depending on what they do. A lot of those figures are very complex, actually. And I can give an example. One of the cards that I designed was for Marie Antoinette, the last Queen of France. Right? I mean, she was very much, seen as a villain because, she was, this evil queen, right? And whatever, and she didn't care about people's happiness. But when I was designing this card, the keyword was actually it was not evil. The keyword for her card was naivety. She was naive. The reason was because she was played as a pawn, by her mother. She was forced to marry the last king of France. And at only the age of 15, she knew nothing as a 15-year-old girl. And her whole life was being confined in this royal palace. She didn't know what was happening beyond that wall.
And at 15, I mean, what do you...
Yeah, I mean, of course she was, then she married into the royal family, until she was, 20 something, but all those 10 or 20 years, again, she lived in that very confined environment. Nobody educated her about what was happening outside there, how the economy works, or what people are facing. So in a way, you can say that she didn't care about, the world. She was selfish, drinking wine, spending, money on luxurious things, right? Extravagant lifestyle. But at the end of the day, it's because she didn't know anything better.
Right.
Nobody really was in the position to tell her. So that's why I named that card naivety, right? So when we are putting that card, it's not really telling us that, okay, you're the evil queen of the France, but it's really telling you that, but maybe we have to really look beyond the wall and understand our situation and from a different perspective and things like that. So in a way, she was a villain, but also she was a victim in her own way.
In her own way. So, Letao, as we wind down a little bit, do you want to pull a card and just for fun and read it for the audience and just...
Yeah, of course. Yeah. So for whoever that is listening.
Yeah, whoever's listening.
From Legends, Heroes and CARTA.
Let's get a piece of your wisdom in here.
Yeah.
What is what's spirit going to pull right now, Letao?
Okay. So, okay. We're just going to pull the card on top, okay? You see me shuffling, right? I'm going to pull this one. Thank you, universe, for our audience. And the card we have got is, Yoshiko Yamaguchi. Okay, this is also a very interesting figure that I want to introduce from Asia to our Western audience. You can see a very beautiful girl, okay, standing on there. And her keyword is, can you see?
Relationship.
Very beautiful, okay.
What's her name again?
Yoshiko Yamaguchi.
You said that so beautifully, but I had no idea.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So this lady, she's actually she was born during the Second World War again in the old Manchuria, and just for the sake of for the audience, right? If you don't know where Manchuria was, Manchuria was basically a fake country that the Japanese colonizers made up in northeast China. So they invaded that big piece of land in the northeast China, and because they knew it was not legal, right? And so they abducted the last emperor of China at that time, and because the Qing dynasty collapsed, so they abducted the last emperor of the Qing, and they said, okay, you want to be an emperor again? We just made up a country. So why don't you become the emperor, but you're going to be our puppet. You're going to listen to us, right? So you still need to listen to the Japanese, but we will let you be the emperor so that Chinese people will be able to accept, right? Because you are the last emperor of China, right?
Yeah.
And so Yoshiko Yamaguchi was born during that time in the old Manchuria, but she was born in the Japanese family. So she was actually Japanese, but she was born in Manchuria in the Chinese society, and she grew up there. So she spoke both languages fluently. And her life was about how to build this beautiful bridge between China and Japan during the wartime. And her life was also very eventful because when the Second World War ended, she was also captured by the Chinese army, saying she was she was what do you call that? Betrayer. Like she betrayed, right? Her own heritage or whatever. And because when she lived in China, she used a Chinese name. Her Chinese name was Li Xianglan, and as an actress, right?
She was a traitor. Is that what you wanted to say? Traitor?
Yeah. Thank you. Yeah, she was being very traitorous, right?
Yeah.
And the Chinese government said, you are a Chinese girl, but you worked with the Japanese, you work in Japanese movies, beautifying the Japanese in China, blah, blah, blah. Yeah, until one day she was able to prove that she was actually Japanese. She was born, her parents are both Japanese, and then she was released from China, but she was banned from entering China again.
Wow.
But still, when she went back to Japan, she actively, participated in, volunteer works and political activities to help Chinese people and Japanese people to be friends again.
She's the bridge, the relationship bridge is what you're saying.
Yeah, correct. Yeah. So this card has a lot to do with building relationships, noticing the importance of relationships, even when we are in the war zone, if you know what I mean.
Yeah, exactly.
There's a lot more content. Yeah, like that's why I always also recommend to all my audience, if you ever purchase and use this Oracle deck, if you want, also, I think this deck of cards could be a very gift for youngsters, for teenagers, right? So if you have children, they're in middle school, high school, I think this could be a very gift for them to learn about the real history, right?
Right, because that's not happening today. I'm just not going to go there. That's another conversation. But Letao, it's been so nice. I love hearing all about what you're doing. And please, before we sign off today, can you share where everybody can find you, where we can purchase the cards? Please tell us all of that.
Right. So my Oracle decks, there are 3 already released on the market. Oracle of the Mythic Heroes, Oracle of the Celestial Deities, and this latest one just released this month, Legends, Heroes, and Villains Oracle. You can purchase them on Amazon. You can simply type the name there. You can find them, or type my name there. You will be able to find my books, my Oracle decks, Letao Wang, Letao Wang. You can also book your personal spiritual counseling session with me through my website, www.thehealingkingdom.com, or follow me in my Instagram account, simply just my name, Letao Wang. Yeah.
I will make sure and link all of that in the show notes for the audience. And thank you so much for joining me today, Letao. I look forward to chatting with you again.
Thank you very much, Lindsay. Have a wonderful day.
That's it for today's show. Thanks so much for listening. If it resonated, please share, follow, and drop a review with your takeaways. It really means a lot. Visit my website at livelikeeden.com to subscribe for weekly reminders and blogs, or sign up for a free 30-minute consult to explore one-on-one guidance sessions if you're really struggling in Awakening's darkness. Take my Awakening quiz to get a personal podcast playlist that meets you exactly where you're at. See you next week for another deep dive.
What's Inside Wink, hosted by me, Jean Trebek.
And me, Allison Martin. Lots of this.
I think that's why I connect with people, because I'm going to tell you exactly how I feel in the moment.
And this.
Wow, I really am not separate like I thought.
And this.
If you want to change the world, to stop hiding.
And some of this. Inside Wing, part of the mindbodyspirit.fm podcast network.
Hi, Ryan Reynolds here for Mint Mobile. Are you looking for a beach read this summer? May I suggest your big wireless bill? It's got suspense, mystery, a slightly flat, emotional arc, and a shocking twist where you realize you've been overpaying the entire time. Fortunately, though, Mint's story is better. Every plan, $15 a month. Even unlimited. That's it. Happy ending. 0 tears. Give it a try at mintmobile.com/switch.
Upfront payment of $45 for 3 months, $90 for 6 months, or $180 for 12-month plan required. $15 per month equivalent. Taxes and fees extra. Initial plan term only. Greater than 50 gigabytes may slow when network is busy. See terms.